Hi there, welcome to episode 2 of Drum Tips. I'm so glad you're here with me today. What I'd like to cover in today's episode are the basics of Drumset Ergonomics. Basically answer the question of how should one set up their drum set and what sorts of things should they be thinking about and taking into consideration when they set up their drum set. So the first general rule of thumb I tend to use as a general measurement is that you should be able to comfortably access each part of the kit with your elbows tucked in at your sides. Now, yes, I know there are a couple exceptions to this rule. Like, for example, no matter where you have your ride cymbal, set up on the kit, you will inevitably have to extend your elbow just a little bit to access the bell. And of course, if you are playing a bigger setup, let's say you have some cymbals on your extreme left or your extreme right, yes, naturally your elbow will have to pop out no more than 4 inches in order to access those extremes. However, those two general rules of thumb aside, you should be able to access each part of the kit comfortably with your elbows tucked in at your sides. So, as you can see, my elbows aren't really deviating too much from my sides as I move around the kit. Now, you'll notice in this clip I am playing a smaller rig, and if you've ever watched footage of me recording in the studio, you'll notice that I generally play a smaller rig in the studio. Now, the reason for this is because, keep in mind, the more stuff you have set up, the more microphones you have to use. The more microphones that are in use equates to more time spent in post-production. Now, if you engineer your own sessions, you already know what I'm talking about. But for those of you that use another audio engineer for your recording sessions, or if you do videos like this, just keep in mind that that is a lot more work for your audio engineer. So if on a particular song, or whatever it is you're playing, there's a part of your kit that you're barely using, if there's some auxiliary toms or whatever that you're barely using, just scrap them out. Make life on yourself and the audio engineer easy. Now, live, of course, is a different situation. So let's say you're in the headlining band and you have plenty of time to set up and you're not rushed, and you have plenty of time to tune before the show and you're not rushed. By all means, have your fun. I enjoy playing bigger rigs myself. I super get it. But for the sake of this video, let's pretend I'm playing a bigger rig for a second. Let's say that I have 2 auxiliary toms over here above my hi-hat, let's say an 8-inch and a 10-inch. And let's say that I have a second floor tom over here. This one's a 16-inch, so let's say this one is an 18-inch. Even in a setup with a bigger spread, you still should be able to move around the kit with your elbows tucked in at your sides. Now, another general rule of thumb I tend to follow in terms of where I should place my drum throne in comparison to the set, two main things to take into consideration here. So the first thing is you should have plenty of room to slide up and down your bass drum pedal. So you should sit far enough away where that is a comfortable motion. But you should also be sitting close enough that you should be getting a comfortable rim shot. Real quick, for some of the new folks who may not know what that means, a rim shot is typically what's used in the backbeat of grooves, and it's also used as accents on the snare when you're doing more intricate rolls or fills or what have you. In order to get a comfortable rim shot, you should attack the center of the head, of course, with the tip of the stick, just like any other stroke, but you should also simultaneously attack the rim of the snare with the shaft of the stick. That gives it a much more resonant and beefy tone. One more rule of thumb that I use in terms of how I should set myself up in relation to the kit has to do with throne height. Now, keep in mind, I'm 5'8", and I'm usually a single bass drummer, and I use quite a few different bass drum techniques. I use the slide method, I sometimes use heel-toe, I sometimes flutter on the bass drum, any of the above, right? And sometimes I combine those strokes. And I find that I have the most control over the bass drum pedal when I sit with my butt only slightly above my knees, or basically like my butt is right at the same level as the top of my knees. You never ever want to sit with your butt below your knees. That will cause you some serious pain to your hips. You don't want to do that. Trust me on this. Now, if you are a double bass player, or perhaps a single bass player, but you're not really interested in using all those intricate bass drum techniques, I would advise sitting a little bit higher, at least maybe 0.5 inches to 2.5 inches above where I sit. Also, keep in mind your height is a factor. So if you're a taller person, naturally you're going to want to sit higher anyway. But what I'd like to do in this clip at this point is I would like to just play around the kit for a little bit. And I want you, the viewer, to observe my elbow motions. Thanks so much for watching the clip today. I hope it was both enjoyable and enlightening. My goal here, of course, is to help you undo some bad habits that perhaps you have gotten yourself into. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. That always helps out with the algorithm, and I will see you in the next episode. Till then, rock on.